Okay, so the outro for part two of Saving Private Ryan. Hopefully, you've enjoyed the film up to this point. We're about halfway through it. Hitting some of the things that you saw today. One of the very small pieces of comic relief in the movie, kind of sort of, is where they think they found James Ryan. They did find James Ryan, and they set this guy down after some of the fighting that was happening between the Germans and the guys of the 101st Airborne trying to secure that town. The battle you saw today, and they sit him down and tell him that his brothers are dead, and he's crying and hysterical. And then come to find out, his name was James Ryan, but he's not James Francis Ryan from Iowa. He's James Frederick Ryan from Minnesota. What are the odds of that? But here's the thing: 16 million young men served through World War II in the American Army. So what are the odds that there would have been two guys named James Ryan? I'm guessing there probably really was many cases of soldiers that have basically the same name. Anyway, they got the wrong one, but then they end up figuring that out, and it was a big foul up, right? Waka Waka, that's kind of, I don't know, that one always gives me a little bit of a grin, even though it is kind of a movie that's on a somber and darker topic. Now, other fighting that you saw today, they're looking for it's like a needle in a haystack. There are 10,000 guys from the airborne scattered all over Normandy, and they're just going to start making their way from town to town, finding groups of guys in the airborne that are holding their objectives, and they're hoping that they can track down James Francis Ryan from Iowa. So no luck in this first town that they came across, but you did see the unit rolls into the town on a rainy day. There's fighting going back and forth. It's still a contested town where these guys from the airborne, who have been stuck behind German lines for about 3 or 4 days at this point, are trying to take this town away from a German unit. You saw that French family that's caught up in the mix with the little daughter, and some of the soldiers, they want to take that girl with them. And you know what I mean? In their heart, they're trying to do the right thing, but soldiers can't travel around with civilians like that. And your heart also has to go out for the poor civilians that get caught up in the fighting between two armies for any conflict. In this case, it was French people, French citizens that, because this is taking place in northern France, they're not really fighting in the war one way or the other. Their country has already been conquered. But these two massive armies are squaring off against each other, and they're caught in the middle of it. You also saw a German sniper take out Vin Diesel's character. His name in the movie is Adrian Caparzo. He was the one that was not following orders, grabbed that girl, they put the girl back up there, and then bam, a sniper hits him, and he bleeds out soon after that. A lot of kids think that now Jackson, the guy, his name is Jackson, who is the American sniper in the movie. He ends up shooting that German sniper right through the scope. They pin down where he's at, and a lot of kids say, "Man, that's pretty far fetched. That's not accurate. How could something like that be, actually play out in war?" Well, it might surprise you, but actually there are lots of accounts from lots of different wars where two snipers get in a standoff with each other, and one sniper does end up shooting the other one right through the scope. So that's how deadly accurate these snipers were from both sides. And anyway, know that all sides are using snipers out on the battlefield and picking out other enemy soldiers from long ranges. So that is kind of a accurate historical context as well. At the last scene that I leave you off at today, they're bedding down in a church. It's basically nighttime. They've had a full day of fighting. I do cut some of this scene out where they're just all sitting around reminiscing and talking. I left the very opening part of it where Captain Miller and Sergeant Horvath are talking. And you notice that they're just kind of recapping their experiences, because those guys had fought in North Africa and Italy, and now in northern France. So they're very experienced combat veterans for the American Army. And you notice Captain Miller's hand is shaking. You also would have saw that if you were really observant and paying attention in the very opening scene of the movie when they're about ready to storm Omaha Beach. In that opening scene, you'd think he's just shaken because he's nervous. He's about to go into combat, but going to bed in that church after a battle has already taken place and things have calmed down, he shouldn't be that nervous there. And he's not nervous. So why is his hand shaking? I'm not going to give you the answer to that quite yet, but that is going to be something that keeps coming and popping back up through the movie. What would cause somebody to have tremors in their hand that's not nerve related, but just you start getting shaking in your hand? What would possibly cause that? Think about that a little bit. tomorrow we'll pick up basically the next morning. This unit is bedding down in the church. They're getting a good night's sleep. And then the next morning, the search continues, and they're heading off to the next town to find more units from the 101st Airborne and continue their search for James Francis Ryan from Iowa. All right. Hopefully you enjoyed it. And hopefully you're looking forward to part 3 tomorrow.